What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Marvelous Minisode. We're going to try to make it quick today, even though this is kind of a hot take, specifically because we're going to be talking about Marvel movies, my first time on Marvelous channel, even though Keegan and Ben started off this whole thing talking about Marvel movies, and it's no secret that they have a huge love for them, and I do too. But I kind of think that the music of the Marvel movies is the biggest disappointment in, film history. So why do I think that? All right, so I'm going to link a lot of other people's videos below so that you can kind of check out where I'm coming from here. And these opinions I arrived at by myself, but I was really glad to find that other people noticed this too, because it's really odd to me. I've been watching the MCU movies, most of them in theaters, since they started coming out in 2008 with Iron Man. And when I saw Iron Man, one of the things I loved was Iron Man's hard rock theme that they used in the first film. I thought it was amazing. Then Incredible Hulk comes out, and you may have forgotten about it because it's kind of the thing about the MCU that they like to sweep under the rug. But that movie has some of the most amazing music of any of the movies of the MCU. So at the very least, go back and check out that soundtrack, even in the background. It's amazing, trust me. You've got a decent enough soundtrack for Thor. It's very sort of cinematic, symphonic, orchestral, godlike music. It's pretty cool. Nothing super recognizable, but he's got a decent enough theme, and it's good. It's passable, for sure. And then you get Iron Man 2. And something really weird happens. They actually completely scrapped the theme from Iron Man 1. It's nowhere in Iron Man 2. It doesn't come back at all. So why? I mean, it's the same director, it's the same studio, but they did get a different composer. And here you have kind of the first issue that I have is a new composer comes in and some of the sounds stay the same, but the music is nowhere to be found. There's no musical continuity in the direct sequel to Iron Man 1. Then you get the strongest, in my opinion, the strongest soundtrack of the first phase, which is Captain America: The First Avenger. Alan Silvestri comes in and does an amazing job with that soundtrack. The theme for Captain America is probably, behind the Avengers theme, the most recognizable theme in the entire MCU. And just the whole score of that movie is incredible. It sounds so good. It's probably the most full-sounding score of any of the Phase 1 films. And then, in a perfect decision, they bring Silvestri back to do the next movie, The Avengers. The weird thing about The Avengers is you don't get musical continuity at all. Now, they kind of play with it by using an AC/DC song when Iron Man comes in, but none of the themes for Iron Man or themes from his movies, either one of them, make their way into The Avengers. You get a couple little hints of Captain America's theme, you get nothing for Thor, and you get nothing for the Incredible Hulk, which is weird. And Silvestri, of course, introduces the Avengers theme, which everyone's like, oh yeah, Avengers theme, it's cool. And to me, it's almost like a misdirection at this point. Here's this awesome, cool thing. I'm scrapping everything musically that came before, but look at my Avengers theme. And so then you get into Phase 2. And you would think, okay, they've got some legs under them. The Avengers were super successful, blah, 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 blah. No, it doesn't get any better. Thor: The Dark World, honestly, again, one of the best soundtracks, not one of the best movies, but one of the best soundtracks. And yet, they don't necessarily bring a whole lot over. That being said, it has more musical continuity than any of the rest of them. Iron Man 3 is probably the best Iron Man soundtrack, but it has nothing in common with the other two thematically, except for 5 seconds when Tony is driving through Tennessee, and you get 5 seconds, maybe even a little less, of the original Iron Man theme from the first movie. And I lost my mind when that happened. I was like, whoa, they actually finally brought something back. I was so starved for it that when I got 5 seconds of it, it was like my world got so much better. And beyond that, it's just kind of ridiculous how little musical continuity they have here. And they introduce a couple new movies with Guardians, with Ant-Man, and those have good scores. What's really great about them is when they get sequels, the music carries over. Not just like in Guardians, they're not using the same pop music The actual score under Guardians, the themes are the same, and it's so refreshing. Same with Ant-Man. But not for the Phase 1 heroes. As a matter of fact, outside of little notes of the Captain America theme, you get basically no carryover. Except again for Thor, because in Ragnarok, even though they completely redesigned the musical palette of that soundtrack, they still bring back tiny little motifs from the first two Thor movies. Mad respect. With Avengers Age of Ultron, at the end of Phase 2, they bring in Danny Elfman to kind of supplement Alan Silvestri, and Elfman brings it and gives kind of one of the, what I would say is probably the best all-around and most entertaining of the Avengers movie scores. He takes what Silvestri did and makes it significantly more recognizable and kind of a less watered-down sound, in my opinion. It actually kind of has some teeth to it, and that's awesome. So, Phase 3. The Phase 1 heroes get very little continuity coming back through. Again, Ragnarok does okay. You get new films with new heroes, so you wouldn't expect to see anything new there. But you do get, Iron Man is a huge part of Spider-Man Homecoming, but there's no musical themes being brought over from any of the Iron Man films to represent him. It's all new. Kind of bothers me. Civil War should be an amazing mashup of thematic material that we've already seen before, but it isn't. And then we get to the massive event film that we've all been waiting for, Infinity War, and then subsequently Endgame. And let me tell you, specifically Infinity War, it bears almost no musical resemblance to anything else in the MCU outside of the Avengers theme. Why? You could argue that it's because the movie's actually about Thanos and not about the Avengers, but come on. Really? You're still seeing these heroes, you're still seeing these characters. You should have a musical language to interpret them. What would actually be cool if you changed all their musical language so that it was as if we were hearing it from the perspective of Thanos. I don't know, change the key, change the tonality of it. You could do something interesting and unique with it. All in all, my biggest problem with the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that it had the potential to be the most incredible film music experience of all time. It could have been this massive 25 film symphony where you could recognize characters by their music. When they made appearances in other people's films, they would have a musical language, and that would be amazing. You would feel exactly what you're supposed to feel because subconsciously music does that for you. So picture for me, if you will, a world in which from movie number 1, Marvel kept a tight grip on the composers and said, hey, each one of these scores needs to fit in with the next one or the one that came before it and act as a continuation or a puzzle piece off of it. Kind of like they did with the movies themselves, with the stories. Can you imagine at Endgame when Iron Man snaps and ends Thanos and everything and brings everybody back? If we could have some kind of theme that had been established for Iron Man over the course of, 8 movies that he was in? What if we didn't scrap all of the beautiful music of the Incredible Hulk, but instead used it to continue to grow and build with that character? Same for Captain America. What if these event films in the Avengers actually utilized musical material from all of the individual pieces and brought them together in a unique way? It would be like nothing we've ever seen before. Kind of like the MCU is. Because the stuff from Black Panther is way too good to only be in one movie. The stuff in Doctor Strange is way too good to only be in one. And honestly, there's some really great stuff from late Phase 2 and Phase 3 that needs to just continue to be part of the musical DNA of the MCU. I tend to prefer to just like things, but when it comes to the overarching cinematic film scoring of the MCU, I just don't have much positive to say.